The universe speaks to us not in human words, but in the silent, eternal language of symbols and numbers. To understand creation, we must first decipher the esoteric mechanics of the absolute. We're stepping right past the veil of mundane, everyday perception here. You see, the symbols and numbers we're going to examine, they aren't just arbitrary human inventions, not at all. They are the unalterable representations of absolute universal laws. Think of them as the very scaffolding of reality itself, bridging that vast, heavy chasm between the physical world we can touch and the spiritual substance we can only intuitively feel. To actually grasp these mechanics, well, it's essentially peering directly into the blueprint of existence. So we have to begin at the literal genesis of all things, the monad, the number one. Now, this is the abstract symbol for omneity. It perfectly conveys that absolute, unconditioned unity that exists above, beyond, and quite frankly, deep within all manifestation. It isn't just a number, you understand. It's the entirety of the divine whole. Omneity is immanent and transcendent all at once. It's everything, yet completely unconditioned by anything. It's that silent, perfect source from which all dimensions, all forces, and all forms ultimately emanate. But here's the profound paradox. Pure, unconditioned unity is entirely unknowable in its isolation. I mean, for experience to even exist, for will to be exerted in any meaningful way, there has to be separate consciousness. And so, we witness this profound metaphysical transition, what some might call the fall. From perfect unity, we actually descend into a lesser divided state of diversity. The absolute literally shatters into multiplicity, and that creates the overwhelming friction, the sheer complexity of the material universe. Think about it. Without separate consciousness, there are no differences. Without differences, zero contrast. And without contrast, there's absolutely no choice. This descent into form, then, is the necessary sacrifice of unity just for the sake of manifestation.
And that inevitably brings us to the Triad, the number 3. This is the universal foundational architecture of all manifestation. The Triad really represents the absolute realization of form. In the immaterial realm, it's the Trinity that composes omniscience. But down here in the material realm, it constructs the very fabric of nature and the cosmos. It's this grand esoteric concept, really, that binds opposing forces of duality and somehow reconciles them into a stable, functioning, breathing reality. If we observe the macrocosm, we see that the architecture of existence is sequentially divided into 3 worlds. At the absolute highest elevation exists the Empyrean world. This is a realm of eternal peace, pure light, and divine fire, completely beyond all motion and earthly dimensions. Descending from that perfection, we enter the world of Orbs. This is the planetary systems, the zodiac, the vast cosmic machinery of celestial bodies. And finally, we reach the lowest descent, the elemental world. This is the dense, incredibly heavy physical sphere of our Earth, governed entirely by transience, atomic cohesion, and those relentless, grinding cycles of birth and death.
Now, by the unalterable law of correspondence, these 3 worlds aren't just out there in space. They are perfectly mirrored within you. Man is quite literally a miniature cosmos. Your am, or your spirit, corresponds directly to the Empyrean world, holding the potential for perfect consciousness. Below that, your plastic envelope, the astral or soul body, corresponds to the world of Orbs, and that governs your intermediate or emotional consciousness. And finally, your physical body, built right out of the Earth's dust, well, that corresponds to the elemental world, restricting you to instinctive, purely automatic consciousness. The universe isn't just outside of you, it's constructed identically on the inside. What this reveals is a profound, undeniable reality. The human form itself is a majestic, living microcosm. Literally every celestial sphere, every atmospheric vibration, every terrestrial element has its exact geometric and spiritual counterpart inside your own being. You are, for all intents and purposes, the universe wrapped in flesh. As above, so below. It's all connected. But now we have to confront a much darker, heavier philosophical mystery, the Pentad, the number 5. If we accept the universe as a strict mathematical progression, the Pentad represents the true turning point of human destiny. It symbolizes humanity in its deeply exiled state, heavily crucified upon the cross of matter. With our 5 physical senses, we are tethered to the illusions of this dense material plane. It's the number of strict limitation, the absolute friction of our earthly bound state. But, simultaneously, it is the sharpest focus of physical consciousness we have. We possess the free will right here to either sink further into the mire or to begin that arduous path of return.
And, mentioning the Pentad invariably brings us to the utter bewilderments of humanity regarding duality, specifically the endless metaphysical problem of good and evil. Since the dawn of conscience, mankind has been completely paralyzed by the appearance of two rival cosmic forces. But the hidden machinery of the universe, it tolerates absolutely no such rival. The idea of a cosmic tyrant, some evil power equal in strength to omniity, is a profound, tragic misunderstanding of the actual architecture of reality.
Evil is not a localized entity. It just isn't. It is strictly the mechanical, relative privation of the absolute good. True good exists only in the perfect, hidden unity of omniety. Therefore, as we descend further and further into the multiplicity of the material world, we move further away from the fire of that unity. And the resulting coldness, that resulting lack of perfection, that is exactly what we experience as evil. It's just a state of lesser good. It's a natural consequence of distance from the source, never a competing sovereign power.
Consider the visual reality of a completely dark room. Darkness possesses zero inherent power. It cannot actively extinguish a candle. It's literally just the absence of photons. The very second the light is introduced, the darkness is instantly annihilated. It vanishes completely because, it was never a rival entity to begin with. It was just a shadow born of privation. Ignorance and evil operate by this exact same mechanical law. But because we forget this, we suffer the ongoing tragedy of living completely blindly in what's known as instinctive consciousness. The vast majority of humanity lives entirely automatically. We're driven by habit, by physical need, and by the weary hypnotic sleep of the five senses. We just wander endlessly in this forest of errors. This state has to be sharply contrasted with spiritual vision, that elevated, luminous clarity that actually allows one to see above and beyond the illusion of matter. It lets you pierce right through the veil of the dialectical world to perceive the eternal truth radiating just beneath the surface.
Now, to actually escape that forest of errors and awaken your spiritual vision, you have to cultivate inner stillness. And this is achieved through the rigorous, unforgiving discipline of single awareness. You must purposefully, actively halt the chaotic intellectual drifting of the mind. You have to sit completely still and avoid all mental analysis. Just observe the sensation of your own being. By structurally quieting the internal machinery of instinct and habit, you command your will to rise objectively above the hypnotic sleep of the physical sphere.
This stillness, you see, is what prepares the soil for right planting. This is the conscious act of withdrawing completely from the relentless, superficial noise of the outer world. It's the ability to draw a cloak around yourself, retiring securely into the inner sanctuary of your own being. Because only by entirely silencing the external static can you finally hear the still, small voice of esoteric truth, that exact voice that emanates directly from the mathematical center of your own microcosmic system. And through these rigorous disciplines, the individual slowly begins to rebuild their spiritual architecture, aligning at last with the tetrad, the number 4. Geometrically, we're talking about the three-sided pyramid, the absolute minimum number of points required to encompass a volume in our three-dimensional world. Mystically, it's the ultimate symbol of a permanent foundation. By conquering the shifting, unpredictable chaos of lower instincts, you construct a stable, unshakable vessel, one actually capable of capturing and holding true intellectual and spiritual illumination. Now, you should know that the knowledge of these unalterable universal laws and numerical mechanics is definitely not new. It is the ageless wisdom. Back in antiquity, the profound truth of the monad, the triad, and the three worlds was recognized as being almost too potent, frankly too liberating, for the unprepared minds of the uninitiated masses. And because of that, it was fiercely, fiercely protected. To protect this sacred architecture of reality, the ancient initiates engaged in highly deliberate obfuscation. They took the pure, mechanical formulas of existence and they clothed them in elaborate mythologies, allegories, and symbols. The gods and heroes of the ancients, they were never meant to be taken literally. No, they were mathematical and philosophical ciphers, perfectly designed to hide the blueprint of the cosmos from anyone who would profane or misunderstand it. Just transport your mind for a moment to the dense, shadowy oak forest of antiquity. Picture the midnight ceremonies of the Druids, veiled in the mist of a darkened world. Under the heavy, oppressive canopy of nature, surrounded entirely by raw, untamed elements, they performed their solemn rituals. But they were not worshipping the trees.
They were attuning themselves to the precise harmonic frequencies of the natural progression. They were honoring the exact same hidden machinery we're analyzing right now. Now, descend conceptually deep into the earth itself. Envision the subterranean, torchlit cavern rites of Mithras. In that heavy, resonant darkness far beneath the surface, initiates faced the stark, unflinching realities of life, death, and spiritual rebirth. And despite the vast differences in geography and outward ritual, whether in a cold Celtic forest or a damp Persian cave, all genuine ancient mystery schools were guardians of the exact same philosophical doctrine. They all protected the exact same one light. This is the eternal narrative of descent and ascent. You are the divine spark, fractured from the monad, plunged straight into the heavy, dialectical friction of the elemental world. But you're not meant to remain in exile forever. By mastering the three worlds within yourself, by piercing the grand illusion of evil, and by cultivating profound inner stillness, you forge the path of reintegration. Inner vision is the single, solitary key to escaping the relentless, grinding wheel of material existence. The architecture of realities stands entirely before you. The numbers have spoken their silent truth. The mechanics of the absolute are laid completely bare. The blueprint is eternal, seamlessly woven into the very fabric of the cosmos, and replicated flawlessly within your own flesh and spirit. The door is unlocked, the path is entirely within.